They used to say Lahoka Pass High School was haunted, but no one ever agreed on why. Some said it was the boiler room, that something died down there when the school was first built. Others swore the auditorium lights flickered because of a girl who had fallen from the catwalk decades ago. Most people, though, treated it like every small town rumor, something to whisper about when the sun went down, then laugh off in the morning. Nothing ever happened until the night the senior class decided to prove it was all fake. It started as a joke. Senior send-off, Tyler Griggs had called it, leaning back in his chair during lunch, grinning like he always did when he knew people would follow him. One last night in that dump. No teachers, no parents, just us, and whatever ghost is supposed to be there. A few people laughed. A few rolled their eyes. But by the end of the day, almost everyone had agreed. It wasn't even hard to get in. The side door by the gym never locked properly, and everyone knew it. By 10 o'clock that Friday night, nearly the entire senior class, over 60 kids, had slipped inside Lahoka Pass High School with sleeping bags, snacks, flashlights, and just enough nerves to make it exciting. No one told the adults. That was part of the fun. At first, it felt exactly like they expected. Loud, chaotic. Someone dragged speakers into the cafeteria and blasted music. A group claimed the gym for dodgeball. Others sprawled out in the hallways, daring each other to explore the creepy parts of the building. Emma Carver stuck close to her best friend, Lila, sitting cross-legged on the cold tile floor near the lockers. "This is so stupid," Emma muttered, watching Tyler and his friends run past shouting. Lila smirked. "You came anyway." "Yeah, well, I wanted to see if anything actually happens." "And if it does?" Emma shrugged, but something in her chest tightened. "Then we leave." Lila laughed. "Relax, it's just an old building." That's what everyone thought. The first strange thing was small enough to ignore. Around midnight, the power flickered, just once. The cafeteria lights dimmed, buzzed, then steadied again. A few people groaned. "Great, place is falling apart," someone said. No one left. The second thing was harder to brush off. A group of kids came back from the science wing quieter than before. "What happened?" Tyler asked, tossing a basketball from hand to hand. One of the guys, Marcus, usually loud, usually fearless, hesitated. "Nothing," he said too quickly. "Dude," Tyler pressed, "what did you see?" Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. "Just weird. The doors." "What about them?" "They were open when we got there. Every single classroom, like all the doors were just standing open." "That's it?" Tyler scoffed. "That's your big ghost story?" Marcus didn't laugh. "We closed them, just messing around, you know. Then we walked back down the hall." He swallowed. They were open again. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Tyler rolled his eyes. "Old hinges, drafts, relax." Marcus didn't argue, but he didn't go back either. By 1 in the morning, the energy had changed. The music got quieter. People stayed in groups, and no one went anywhere alone. Emma noticed it first in the silence between sounds. The school wasn't supposed to be this quiet. Even with dozens of people inside, there were long stretches where it felt like the building itself was holding its breath. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. Lila frowned. "Feel what?" Emma shook her head. "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing. It was the sense that something had noticed them. At 1:23 a.m., the power went out completely. This time, it didn't come back. The school dropped into darkness so fast it felt like being plunged underwater. A chorus of startled shouts echoed through the halls. "Phones!" someone yelled. "Turn on your lights!" Dozens of flashlights blinked on, beams cutting through the black. Faces appeared, pale, wide-eyed. "Okay," Tyler said loudly, forcing confidence into his voice. "Not funny anymore. Who messed with the breaker?" "No one!" someone shouted back. "It's probably just—" A sound cut him off. A loud, metallic slam. It came from somewhere deep in the building. Everyone froze. "What was that?" Lila whispered. No one answered. They should have left then. Every single one of them would later wish they had. But no one moved, because right after the slam came something worse. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, echoing through the halls. Not running, not rushing, just walking toward them. "Okay, that's not funny," Tyler called out, but his voice cracked this time. "Seriously, knock it off!" The footsteps didn't stop. They grew louder, closer. Emma's grip tightened around Lila's arm. "That's not one of us." "How do you know?" Lila whispered. "Because—" Emma couldn't finish, because it didn't sound right. Each step was too heavy, too deliberate, like whatever was making them didn't belong in a human body. The lights flickered back on, just for a second. In that flash, Emma saw the far end of the hallway, and something standing there. Huge, massive, its head nearly brushing the ceiling tiles. Its arms hung long at its sides, fingers stretched into shapes that didn't look like hands anymore. And its face. The lights went out again before she could see. Emma gasped. "Did you see that?" She choked. "See what?" Lila asked, panicked. "There was—" The footsteps stopped, right outside the cafeteria doors. No one breathed. No one spoke. The doors creaked, slowly, opening inward. The darkness beyond them felt thick, heavy, like it wasn't just the absence of light, but something deeper, watching, waiting. Then, a voice, soft, different. "Stay." It didn't echo like a normal voice. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. Walls, floors, ceilings. "Stay with us." People started backing away. "Okay, we're leaving," Tyler said quickly. "Everyone out, now!" But as the first group ran toward the gym exit, they stopped, screaming. "The doors are gone!" Someone shouted. "What do you mean gone? They're not there, it's just—" More screaming cut him off. Panic exploded. People ran in every direction, flashlights bouncing wildly, voices overlapping in terror. Emma and Lila clung to each other, pushing through the chaos. "We need to get out," Lila cried. "I know." They turned down a hallway Emma knew by heart, the one leading to the front entrance. Except, it didn't look right. The lockers were wrong, rusted, warped. Some hung open like broken mouths. "That's not possible," Emma whispered. "We went the right way. I know, just keep going." But the hallway stretched longer than it should have, and longer, and longer. The voice came again, closer this time. "You came." Emma felt it behind her. Not footsteps, not movement, just presence. "You stay." Lila screamed. Something grabbed her. Not visibly, not clearly, but her body jerked backward as if pulled by invisible hands. Emma lunged, grabbing Lila's wrist. "Don't let go!" Lila cried. "I won't!" But the force was too strong. Lila's fingers slipped, and then she was gone. No sound, no trace, just empty air. Emma stood frozen, shaking, her breath coming in sharp, broken gasps. "Lila?" she whispered, but no answer came. Around her, the school shifted. The walls seemed to bend inward. The ceiling stretched higher. The darkness thickened. And everywhere she could hear them, her classmates calling out, crying. Then, one by one, going silent. Emma ran. She didn't know where she was going anymore. Every turn led somewhere unfamiliar. Every door opened to darkness. The school wasn't a school anymore. It was something else. Something that had been waiting. At some point she realized she wasn't alone. Not in the way she had been before. There were shapes in the halls now. Tall, thin, watching. Standing just at the edge of her vision. And every time she turned to look, they were closer. The voice came one last time. Right behind her. "We remember." Emma squeezed her eyes shut. "Please," she whispered. "Just let me go." Silence. Then, no. The next morning, Lahoka Pass High School stood quiet under the pale light of dawn. The doors were exactly where they should be. The halls looked normal, clean, empty. When the first teacher arrived, they found sleeping bags scattered across the cafeteria floor, phones left behind, shoes, backpacks. But no students, not a single one. Search parties combed the town, the woods, the roads leading out of Lahoka Pass. Nothing. No footprints, no signs of struggle, no explanation. The town called it a tragedy, an unsolved mystery. They held vigils, made posters, asked questions no one could answer. Eventually the story started, about the school, about that night, about the voices people sometimes claim to hear when they pass by after dark. Soft, different, whispering from inside. They say if you stand outside Lahoka Pass High School late enough, when the world is quiet and the air feels too still, you might hear it. A chorus of voices, faint, desperate, calling from somewhere deep inside the building, not asking for help, not anymore, just repeating the same thing, over and over and over. Stay. The first note came 3 nights after they brought the piano home. It wasn't loud, not a crashing chord or some dramatic horror movie sting, just a single, careful key pressed somewhere in the middle register, soft enough that it could have been mistaken for the house settling. But houses don't hesitate before they make noise, and this note had hesitated. The piano sat in the corner of the living room like it had always belonged there. It was an upright, tall and narrow, its wood darkened with age and faint scratches that suggested it had lived a long life before the antique store. The finish had dulled to a soft sheen, and the ivory keys were slightly yellowed, some chipped at the edges. A brass plate above the keys bore a name that had long since worn away. David had loved it immediately. "It's got character," he said, running a hand along the top. "Way better than those plastic keyboards." His wife, Marissa, had been less convinced. "It's also probably haunted," she joked. Their daughter, Ellie, 10 years old and newly obsessed with learning piano, stood between them, practically vibrating with excitement. "Please, Mom, please. I'll practice every day, I swear." Marissa sighed. That was how the piano ended up in their home. The first night, it was quiet. The second night, too. On the third, at 2:17 a.m., Marissa woke to that single note. She lay still, eyes open in the darkness, listening. Nothing followed. She told herself it had been a dream. The next morning, she mentioned it over coffee. "I think I heard the piano last night." David didn't look up from his phone. "Probably Ellie." Ellie shook her head immediately. "I didn't wake up." Marissa studied her. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." David shrugged. "Old house, old piano, stuff makes noise." That was the end of it, or it should have been. The next night, it happened again. 2 notes this time. Closer together, intentional. Marissa sat up in bed, her heart beginning to thud in a way she didn't like. "David," she whispered. He groaned. "What?" "Listen." They both held still. Silence stretched long enough that she started to feel foolish. Then 3 notes played, slow and uneven, like someone searching for a melody they couldn't quite remember. David sat up. "Okay," he said quietly. They went downstairs together. Every light was off. The house felt different at night, longer shadows, deeper corners. The piano waited in the living room, still, harmless. David stepped closer, flipping on a lamp. Warm light spilled over the keys. No one there, no movement. He pressed a key experimentally. The sound rang out, normal and clean. "See?" he said, though his voice had lost some confidence. "Probably just wood shifting or something." Marissa didn't respond, because she could have sworn, just before he touched it, The keys had been slightly depressed, as if something had just lifted its fingers. Ellie started practicing more. At first, it was endearing, simple scales, halting songs. The piano filled the house with life. But after the fourth night, something changed. Marissa noticed it first. Ellie was playing in the afternoon, sitting straight back on the bench, her small fingers moving carefully over the keys. "What are you playing?" Marissa asked. Ellie paused. "I don't know." "What do you mean?" Ellie frowned at the keys. "It just sounded right." Marissa felt a chill. "Play it again." Ellie tried, but this time it came out wrong, awkward and disjointed, like she'd forgotten something important. "That's weird," Ellie muttered. Marissa forced a smile. "You're learning. It's okay." But that night, at 2:17 a.m., the piano played that same melody, perfectly. This time, they didn't go downstairs. They stayed in bed, frozen, listening as the notes drifted up through the house. It wasn't random anymore. It was a song, slow and deliberate, hauntingly precise. Each note hung in the air just a second too long, as if it wanted to be heard, understood. Ellie's door creaked open down the hall. "Mom?" she called, her voice trembling. Is that you?" "No," Marissa called back, her throat tight. "Stay in your room." The music stopped, abruptly, like whoever, or whatever, was playing had been interrupted. The next morning, the piano bench was pulled out, farther than Ellie ever left it, and the lid was open. David tried to stay rational. "It's probably just us," he said. "We're hearing things, old wiring, pipes, whatever, and the bench, maybe we bumped it." "While we were asleep?" Marissa asked. He didn't answer. Ellie refused to touch the piano that day. That night, the house didn't wait until 2:17. The first chord came at 1:03 a.m., loud, violent. Marissa jolted awake, her pulse hammering. The piano erupted into sound, keys slamming down in rapid succession, chaotic and aggressive. Not a melody this time, not a song, a tantrum. David scrambled out of bed. "What the hell?" "Don't go down there." Marissa grabbed his arm, but he was already moving. The music grew louder as he reached the stairs. Ellie screamed, "Dad!" That was what made him run. Marissa followed, her legs shaking, the living room lights flickering as they reached the bottom of the stairs. The piano was playing itself, keys hammering down with impossible force, some striking so hard they stuck for a moment before snapping back up. Ellie stood frozen in the doorway, sobbing. "I didn't do it! I didn't!" "I know," David said, pulling her back. Then the bench moved. It slid across the floor with a sharp scrape, jerking forward as if someone had kicked it. The music stopped. All at once, the silence that followed was worse. Something breathed, not from the piano, from behind it. A slow, wet inhale. Marissa's stomach dropped. "David?" she whispered. "Don't." But he stepped closer. "Hello?" he called, his voice shaking despite his effort to sound firm. The lamp beside the piano flickered. For a split second, the shadow behind the instrument shifted. The shadow was so tall, was so thin, and then the piano screamed. Not a sound from its strings, but something deeper, a warped, human-like wail that tore through the room. The keys slammed down all at once, a deafening chord. Ellie clapped her hands over her ears, and something moved. It unfolded from behind the piano like it had been folded into the darkness, a shape that didn't belong to anything human. Long limbs bent at wrong angles, a torso that seemed too narrow, stretched tight over something shifting underneath, its head tilting sharply as if its neck didn't quite support it. Its face? There wasn't one. Not really. Just a suggestion of features, like a face pressed from the inside of soft material. And where its mouth should have been, well, the piano began to play again. The creature jerked with each note, as if the music controlled it, or worse, as if it was the music. It took a step forward. The floor creaked under a weight that shouldn't have been there. David grabbed Ellie and pulled her back. "Go!" he shouted. "Upstairs!" Marissa didn't hesitate. They ran. Behind them, the piano followed, not physically, but the sound. The sound chased them, notes crashing and spilling over one another, growing faster, louder, angrier. They barricaded themselves in the bedroom. Ellie was sobbing uncontrollably. "What is it?" she cried. "What is it?" Marissa didn't answer, because she didn't know, because there was no answer that made sense. The music reached the stairs. They could hear it now, closer, louder, as if the piano itself was being dragged up step by step. Thunk, creak, thunk. Each movement punctuated by a discordant note. David backed away from the door. "That thing, it's tied to the piano," he said, breathless. "We have to get it out of the house." "How?" Marissa snapped. "It's coming up the stairs." The music stopped, right outside their door. Silence, a long, suffocating silence. Then, a single gentle knock. 3 taps, polite, patient. Ellie whimpered. "Don't open it," she whispered. The handle twitched. Once, twice. Then slowly, it began to turn. David shoved a dresser against the door. The handle jerked violently, rattling against the frame. The piano exploded into sound again. Not random this time. That same melody, the one Ellie had played, perfect, over and over, faster each time. The door shook, the wood splintered. Something on the other side slammed into it with unnatural force. Ellie screamed. Marissa grabbed her, pulling her back toward the window. "David!" He looked at them, at the door, at the shaking frame that wouldn't hold much longer. "Go," he said. "What?" "I'll hold it. Just go." "No." The door cracked. A long, jagged split running down the center. Through it, something moved. A thin, pale shape pushing through the gap. Not a hand. Too many joints. The piano hit a final deafening chord. The door burst inward, and the thing came with it. The last thing Marissa saw before she dragged Ellie out the window was David being lifted off the ground, not by hands, but by something that moved like music made solid. His body jerked in time with the notes, limbs snapping into unnatural positions as the melody twisted and warped. His scream broke into fragments, then stopped abruptly, like a note cut short. The house fell silent. By morning, the police found the piano, still in the living room, perfectly still, untouched. No sign of forced entry, no sign of a struggle, no sign of David. Marissa refused to go back inside. Ellie never spoke again. The piano was returned to the antique store. No one asked too many questions. It was placed in the corner, waiting. 3 days later, a young couple walked in. "Oh, wow," the man said, running his hand along the wood. "This has character." His partner hesitated. "It's probably haunted," she joked. From somewhere deep inside the piano, a single note pressed down, soft, patient, waiting to be heard. I should have trusted my gut the moment I saw her. Her profile picture had been normal, pretty, but not in that overly polished, filtered way. Just a woman sitting at a cafe, sunlight on her face, a half smile like she knew something you didn't. Her name was Elise. We'd messaged for a week. Nothing weird, nothing alarming, funny even, smart. But when she walked into the restaurant, something didn't line up. It took me a second to figure out what. She looked exactly like her pictures, and yet not at all. Her smile was too wide, not exaggerated, just slightly past what felt natural. like someone holding a grin a beat too long. Her eyes found me instantly, even though I hadn't waved or stood up. She crossed the room in a straight line, never once glancing at anyone else. "Brandon?" she asked. Her voice was soft, normal, but her eyes didn't blink. "Yeah," I said, standing up. "Elise?" She nodded, still smiling. "I knew it was you." We sat, the waiter came, took our drink orders, and left. She didn't look at the menu. "You already know what you want?" I asked. "I'm not here for the food," she said. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. She didn't. The conversation started fine. Where we grew up, what we did for work, but every answer she gave felt rehearsed. Not like she was lying, just like she'd said the same words before. Exactly the same words. At one point I tested it. "You said you grew up in Austin, right?" She nodded. "Born and raised. I love the summers. The heat never bothered me." Her tone didn't change, not even slightly. 10 minutes later I circled back. "Austin must have been nice growing up." "Born and raised," she said again. "I loved the summers. The heat never bothered me." Same cadence, same pauses, same everything. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Do you remember saying that already?" I asked. She exchanged a glance with me. The smile never left. "I remember everything," she said. The waiter came back with drinks, and I jumped a little. I hadn't even noticed him approach. Elise didn't acknowledge him at all. "You seem nervous," she said once he left. "I'm not," I lied. "You are," she said calmly. "Your heart rate increased when I repeated myself. Your pupils dilated. Your breathing changed." I stared at her. "That's oddly specific." "I pay attention," she said. For a second, just a second, I thought about leaving, making up an excuse, calling it a night. But then she reached across the table and touched my hand. Her skin was warm, real, and her smile softened, just enough to look human again. "I know I can come off a little strange," she said. "First dates make me intense." I exhaled, tension easing slightly. "Yeah," I said, "they do that." "I promise," she added, "I'm better in a more comfortable environment." I should have left. Instead, I said, "Like where?" "My place," she replied. Her house was about 20 minutes out of town. The drive felt longer. She gave directions instead of using GPS, and they were oddly precise. "Turn right in exactly half a mile," she'd say. "Slow down. There's a dip in the road." She never checked her phone, never hesitated. The farther we went, the emptier it got. Streetlights thinned out. Houses became scattered, then disappeared entirely. "You live out here alone?" I asked. "Yes." "No neighbors?" "Not close enough to matter." That knot in my stomach tightened again. We pulled up to a house that didn't match her at all. It was old, not run down exactly, but neglected. The paint was dull, the porch sagged slightly, and the windows were dark, no lights on inside. "You forgot to leave a light on," I said, trying to keep it light. "I don't need one," she replied. She stepped out of the car. I hesitated for a second before following. The night was unnaturally quiet. No crickets, no wind. She unlocked the front door and stepped inside without turning anything on. "Elise?" I called from the doorway. "Come in." Her voice echoed from somewhere deeper inside. I swallowed and stepped in. The door closed behind me with a soft click, and immediately I smelled it. Not rot, not exactly, but something old, damp, like a basement that had been sealed too long. "Elise?" I said again. A light flickered on down the hallway. She stood there, backlit, her face half in shadow. "Take off your shoes," she said. I did. I don't know why. Reflex, maybe. As I stepped further in, I started to notice things. The walls weren't decorated normally. No photos, no paintings, just marks, scratches, hundreds of them. Long, jagged lines carved into the drywall, some overlapping, some deep enough to expose the wood beneath. What happened here? I asked. People express themselves in different ways, she said. A chill ran down my spine. People? She didn't answer. Instead, she turned and walked further into the house. Come on, she called. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to leave. So why didn't I? I told myself I was overreacting, that there was an explanation, that I'd laugh about this later. I followed her. The hallway led to a living room that looked wrong. The furniture was there, a couch, a coffee table, but it was all pushed too close together, like it had been arranged without understanding how people actually moved through a space. And the windows? They were covered, not with curtains, but with boards. Why are the windows boarded up? I asked. To keep things in, she said. I froze. What? She turned to face me fully now, and for the first time, her smile dropped, not into a frown, into nothing. Her face went completely blank. You shouldn't have come here, she said. My heart slammed against my ribs. What do you mean? I gave you multiple opportunities to leave, she said. You noticed the inconsistencies, the repetitions, the isolation. Her voice was still calm, clinical. But you stayed, she continued. You chose to come. I took a step back. Okay, I said, forcing a laugh. All right, this isn't funny anymore. I'm gonna go. I turned toward the hallway and stopped. The door I came through was gone. Not closed, gone. Just a solid wall where it should have been. What the hell? You're perceptive, she said behind me, but not perceptive enough. I spun around. What is this? She stepped closer, and as she moved, something about her shifted. Not dramatically, it was subtle. Her limbs didn't swing quite right. Her head tilted a fraction too far, like some alien guiding someone who almost understood human movement. This house, she said, is designed to study behavior. Study? What are you talking about? Fear, she replied. I bolted. I didn't care where. I just ran. Down the hallway, past the scratched walls, into the first door I could find. I slammed it shut behind me, locked it, and turned around. It wasn't a room. It was a corridor. Long, narrow, endless. And the walls, they were covered in more than scratches. Words, thousands of them, carved, written, smeared. Help me. She watches. Don't sleep. Not real, not real, not real. My breath came in short, panicked bursts. A sound echoed behind me. Soft footsteps, slow, steady. She doesn't like when you run, a voice whispered. I turned. It wasn't Elise. It was a man, or what was left of one. His eyes were sunken, his skin pale, his fingers broken, bent at unnatural angles, like they'd all been broken many times and healed poorly. Please, he said, don't let her see you panic. Footsteps again, closer. She learns from it, he added. Who are you? I whispered. Doesn't matter, he said. None of us last long enough for names to matter. A scream echoed from somewhere deeper in the corridor. Not his, not mine, someone else. Something inside me snapped. I'm getting out, I said. He shook his head slowly. You already tried, he said. I just got here. He gave a hollow laugh. Time doesn't work right here, he said. You've been here longer than you think. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. Silence. Then a knock, soft and polite. "Brandon," Elisa's voice called. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." I backed away from the door. "She can't come in if it's locked," the man whispered. The knob turned. Slowly, deliberately, the lock clicked. The door creaked open, and Elise stepped inside. Her smile was back, wider than ever. "I was hoping you'd explore," she said. "It tells me so much about you." I stumbled back, my mind racing. "What do you want?" I shouted. "To understand you," she said simply. She took another step forward, and then she added softly, "To keep you." The man beside me let out a quiet, defeated sound. I looked at him, then back at her, then down the endless corridor filled with desperate messages from people who had tried, just like me, to escape. And I realized something worse than fear, something colder. I wasn't the first. I wouldn't be the last. And as Elisa's hand reached out for me, her fingers stretching just a little too long, I understood. This wasn't a house. It was a trap. And I had walked into it willingly. The first text came at 8:17 a.m., just as Daniel lifted his coffee for the first sip. Unknown. "You shouldn't be here today." He frowned, thumb hovering over the screen. Wrong number, obviously. He glanced around the coffee shop anyway. Habit, not fear. The place was the same as always. Low music, quiet conversation, the hiss of milk steaming behind the counter. A couple arguing softly near the window. A college kid with headphones, eyes glued to a laptop. Nothing out of place. Daniel typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "I said you shouldn't be there." A prickle crept up the back of his neck. He turned again, slower this time, scanning faces. No one was looking at him. He blocked the number. By the time he finished his coffee, he'd nearly forgotten about it. The second text came the next morning. Same time, same seat. Unknown. "You came back." Daniel's stomach tightened. He hadn't given anyone his number recently, and the message, it felt too specific to be coincidence. He didn't reply this time, just blocked the number again. 3 minutes later, his phone buzzed. A new number. Unknown. Blocking won't help. He stared at the screen, his reflection faintly visible in the glass, eyes a little too wide, jaw clenched tighter than he realized. He typed slower this time. "What do you want?" The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, then, "Unknown. To warn you." He stopped going to the coffee shop after that. For 2 days, everything was quiet. No texts, no unknown numbers. Daniel almost convinced himself it had been some elaborate prank, a friend maybe, someone who knew his routine. On the third day, at 8:17 a.m., his phone buzzed while he sat at home. Unknown. "You think leaving the place matters?" His blood went cold. He hadn't told anyone where he'd be. Another buzz. Unknown. "It's not about the coffee shop." His fingers trembled as he typed. "Then what is it about?" The response took longer this time, long enough for dread to settle deep in his chest. Unknown. "It's about you." That was when the sleepless nights started. At first it was just unease, a lingering sense of being watched. He'd double-check the locks, keep the TV on for background noise. Sleep came in shallow bursts, easily broken by every creak and passing car. The texts didn't stop. They came at random times now. Unknown. "You're alone." Unknown. "You didn't used to be." Unknown. "Do you remember what you did?" That one stuck with him. Do you remember what you did? Daniel tried to think of anything, any reason someone might be targeting him like this. An argument, a mistake, something he'd buried and forgotten. Nothing came. Still, the messages kept digging. Unknown. You left him there. Daniel's breath caught. Who? No response. He changed his number. For 12 blissful hours there was silence. Then, at exactly 8:17 p.m., his phone buzzed. A new number. Unknown. Did you think that would work? Daniel felt something inside him crack. Not loudly, not all at once, but enough to let fear seep into everything. He stopped answering calls, stopped leaving his apartment except when absolutely necessary. Even then, he felt eyes on him everywhere. Reflections in windows, strangers lingering just a second too long, someone always standing behind him in line, watching, waiting. The texts grew more personal. Unknown. You still see it, don't you, when you close your eyes? He did. At first, he thought it was just stress, a trick of an overworked mind, but the image was always the same. A dark stretch of road, rain hitting the windshield, a shape in the headlights. Daniel shoved the thought away, heart hammering. Weeks passed, or maybe days. Time had begun to blur. He stopped going to work, stopped answering friends. His world shrank to the walls of his apartment and the glow of his phone, and the messages, always the messages. Unknown. You can't ignore it forever. Unknown. He couldn't either. Unknown. He tried to crawl. Daniel pressed his hands to his temples, squeezing his eyes shut. Stop, he muttered. Just stop. The phone buzzed immediately. Unknown. Then answer me. He stared at the message. For a long time, he didn't move. Then, slowly, he opened the thread and typed, Answer what? The reply came faster than ever before. Unknown. Call me. A number appeared beneath the message. Daniel hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him not to, but something else, something deeper, heavier, pushed back. The need to know, the need to make it stop. His thumb hovered over the call button, then pressed. The line rang once, twice, then clicked. Silence. Hello? Daniel's voice sounded thin, distant. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, breathing. Wet, ragged, close. So very close. Daniel froze. Who is this? He whispered. The breathing continued. Then, slowly, it shifted into something else. A voice. His voice. Daniel? His stomach dropped. No, he said, shaking his head. No, that's not... You left me. The words came out warped, like they were being forced through water. Daniel stumbled back, nearly dropping the phone. I don't know what you're talking about. A sound crackled through the line. Not quite a laugh, not quite a choke. Rain. Remember the rain? The image slammed into him. The road, the storm, the headlights cutting through sheets of water, and the man. God, the man. He'd stumbled out of nowhere, drenched, waving his arms. Daniel had swerved too late. The impact, the sickening thud, the way the car had skidded to a stop. Daniel's breath came in sharp, panicked bursts. I checked, he stammered. I got out. I looked. But that wasn't true. Not really. He'd stepped into the rain, heart racing, vision blurred. He'd seen the shape in the road. He'd heard something. A sound, maybe. A movement. And then Headlights in the distance. Another car coming. Panic. Pure, overwhelming panic. He'd gotten back in, driven, left. "You heard me," the voice whispered. Daniel collapsed into his chair, phone pressed to his ear like it was the only thing keeping him upright. "I was scared," he said, barely audible. I didn't know what to do." The breathing on the other end grew louder, closer. "I tried to crawl." A scraping sound filled the line, like something dragging itself across pavement. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut. "Stop," he begged. "Please, just stop." "You left me." The words weren't coming from the phone anymore. Daniel's eyes snapped open. The apartment was silent. So silent. Then, a faint sound from the hallway. A slow, uneven dragging. Daniel's grip tightened on the phone. "Daniel." The voice was behind his door now, not through the speaker, not distorted, real, wet, and broken. The doorknob began to turn, slowly and deliberately. Daniel couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "You shouldn't be here." The door creaked open just a few inches. Darkness pooled in the gap, and something shifted within it, something low to the ground, something pulling itself forward. Daniel's phone slipped from his hand, clattering to the floor. On the screen, one final message appeared. "Unknown. Now you remember." The dragging sound stopped, right beside his feet, and then something cold wrapped around his ankle and pulled. The first sign something was wrong was the map. Eli noticed it. "Hey, this road doesn't exist," he said, tilting his phone toward the windshield as if better signal might fix it. The blue GPS line ended in a blank gray stretch like the world just stopped. Marcus snorted from the driver's seat. "That's because you've got no signal out here. Relax, man. It's a shortcut." "It's not even labeled," Eli insisted. From the back seat, Jess leaned forward between them. "Guys, there's a town up ahead." The road dipped slightly, and there it was, spread out in the dying afternoon light, a cluster of buildings, sun-bleached and sagging, as if they'd been left out too long. No cars, no movement, no people. Marcus slowed. "Huh, that's weird." There was no sign welcoming them, no name, no indication it had ever been meant for visitors. "Keep driving," Eli said quickly. Marcus hesitated. "We need gas soon. If there's even a chance—" "Look at it," Eli snapped. "No one lives there." Jess squinted. "There's a gas station." There was. A small structure at the edge of town. Its sign tilted and barely hanging on. The letters were faded, but the shape was unmistakable. Marcus exhaled. "We'll just check it out. 2 minutes." "No," Eli said, but the car was already rolling forward. The town swallowed sound. That was the first thing Jess noticed as they crossed into it. The hum of the tires against asphalt dulled. The wind seemed to stop. Even the engine sounded distant. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. "Hear what?" Marcus asked. "Exactly." They drove past buildings with broken windows and warped doors, a diner with chairs still inside, a barber shop with a cracked mirror reflecting nothing but darkness. Everything looked abandoned, but not empty. It felt watched. Eli's phone went completely black. "Okay, that's not normal," he muttered, tapping it. No response. Marcus pulled up beside the gas station. 2 pumps, both rusted. The convenience store attached had a door hanging slightly ajar. "Stay in the car," Eli said immediately. Marcus killed the engine. The silence deepened. "I'm just going to go check if there's anything." The car died completely. Not just the engine, everything. The dashboard went black. The faint hum of electronics vanished. Jess felt it like pressure in her ears. Marcus turned the key. Nothing. Again. Still nothing. Are you kidding me? He muttered. Don't get out, Eli said, his voice low now, urgent. Marcus laughed nervously. We're not just going to sit here. Don't get out. Jess turned toward the town. The sun had dipped lower than it should have. Shadows stretched unnaturally long between the buildings, pooling like liquid in the streets, and something moved inside one of them. Guys, she whispered. Both boys followed her gaze. A figure stood in the doorway of the gas station. It stood still. At first, it looked like a person. Then it leaned forward slightly. Everything about it seemed wrong. It was short, long limbs, bending in places that they shouldn't. Its head leaned out. Then another appeared behind it, and another. Marcus whispered, What the hell? The first figure stepped out into the light. Its skin was pale gray, stretched tight over a frame that looked assembled incorrectly. Its arms dangled almost to its knees. Its face... Jess couldn't process the face. Not because it was missing anything, because everything was there, just not where it should be. Eyes slightly too low, mouth too wide, features subtly shifted like someone trying to remember what a human looked like. It opened its mouth and mimicked a voice. Hello? It sounded like a recording played back wrong, warped, stretched. Eli grabbed Marcus's arm. Start the car. I am trying. More figures emerged from the surrounding buildings, dozens, all watching, all too still. The one closest took another step forward. Hello? Marcus slammed the key again. The engine sputtered and died. The creature's head snapped sharply to the side, like it had heard something distant. Then, all of them moved, fast. Run! Eli screamed. They burst out of the car at the same time, sprinting toward the nearest building, the diner. Behind them, the sound of feet hitting pavement wasn't quite right. So many joints, so many impacts. Jess risked a glance back and wished she hadn't. The creatures didn't run like humans. They lunged, limbs jerking and snapping forward, sometimes using all fours, sometimes upright, shifting unpredictably. One of them leapt onto the hood of the car, its face pressed against the glass, mouth stretching wider than possible. Marcus yanked open the diner door, and they tumbled inside, slamming it shut behind them. Eli shoved a table against it. Jess grabbed another, hands shaking. Something slammed into the door from the outside. Once, twice, then silence. The three of them stood there, gasping. Okay, Marcus said, voice trembling. Okay, what the hell are those things? Outside, shadows moved past the windows, slow now, watching, waiting. They said, hello, Jess whispered. Eli shook his head. No, they copied it. That's not the same thing. Another voice came from outside, closer this time. Hello? Then another from a different direction. Hello? Dozens of voices, all slightly off, repeating, learning. Marcus backed away from the windows. They're trying to, what, talk to us? No, Eli said quietly. They're practicing. A loud crack echoed from the back of the diner. All three froze. That didn't come from outside, Jess said. Something moved in the kitchen, a slow scraping sound. Eli whispered, We're not alone in here. The back door creaked open. One of the creatures stepped through. It was closer now, too close. Up close they could see its skin wasn't just pale, it looked worn, like it didn't belong to it. It took a step forward, its mouth open. Stay, it said, clearer this time. Marcus grabbed a chair and hurled it. It hit the creature in the chest, knocking it back, but it didn't react like something hurt, just adjusted. More shapes appeared behind it in the kitchen. Eli grabbed Jess's hand. Back window, now. They ran, crashing through the diner, shoving past overturned tables. Marcus smashed the glass with his elbow, ignoring the pain as shards scattered. Go! They scrambled out into the alley just as the front door finally gave way behind them. The creatures flooded inside. Where do we go? Jess cried. Eli pointed. Church! At the far end of the street stood a small chapel, its steeple crooked but intact. They sprinted. The sun dipped lower. The shadows stretched farther, and the creatures poured out of every building now. The whole town was waking up. They reached the church and slammed the door shut behind them, shoving a heavy pew against it. Inside, it was darker, quieter. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, a voice, soft, right behind them. You stayed. They turned slowly. A figure stood near the altar, but this one was different. It stood straighter, more human. Its face, almost right. Almost. It smiled. We forgot how to be, it said, words coming smoother now. But you remind us. Eli felt a cold realization settle in his chest. They're learning from us, he whispered. The creature tilted its head. Yes. Outside, the pounding began again. Harder, faster, more coordinated. The door wouldn't hold. Marcus looked at the boarded windows, then at the side exit. We make a break for the car when it's dark, he said. If they can't see, they don't need to see, Eli said. They hear, they copy, they adapt. Jess's voice shook. And what do we do? The creature near the altar took a step closer. We stay, it said again. Behind them, the church doors cracked, splintering inward. Dozens of voices echoed through the town now. Clearer, stronger. Stay. 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 Eli tightened his grip on Jess's hand. Marcus picked up a broken piece of wood, holding it like a weapon. The last light of the sun slipped below the horizon. Darkness swallowed the town. And in that darkness, the voices sounded almost human. Almost. And that made it worse. The doors burst open, and the night began. We used to joke about the woods like everyone else in town did. Blackridge Forest sat just beyond the last row of houses, a thick, tangled wall of trees that seemed to swallow light. People said things about it, things passed down like old ghost stories you weren't supposed to believe but never quite forgot. Don't go in after dark. Don't follow the voices. If you hear something calling your name, it isn't. Typical small town stuff. Until people started disappearing. Not a lot, just enough to keep the rumors alive. A hunter who never came back. A couple of teenagers who went hiking and were never seen again. Every time, the same explanation. They went too deep. And every time, the same unspoken conclusion. Something took them. Of course, we didn't believe any of it. We were idiots. There were 5 of us. Me, Tyler, Jess, Mark, and Evan. We'd grown up together, spent countless nights daring each other to do stupid things, and the woods had always been the biggest dare of all. It was Tyler's idea. Let's just go in, he said one night, leaning back in his chair like it was nothing. Not far, just enough to prove it's all crap. Jess rolled her eyes. People have gone missing, Ty. People go missing everywhere, he shot back. That doesn't mean there's some monster out there. Mark grinned. What, you scared? Jess hesitated. That was all it took. We went the next night. The forest felt different the second we stepped inside. It wasn't just dark, it was heavy. The trees were so close together their branches tangled overhead, choking out the sky. Even with flashlights, the light didn't carry far. It just kind of died a few feet ahead of us. Okay, I said, trying to sound casual. This is already creepier than I expected. No kidding, Evan muttered. Tyler laughed. Relax, it's just trees. But his voice sounded quieter than usual, like the forest was swallowing it. We walked for maybe 20 minutes, sticking to what used to be a trail but had long since faded into nothing. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. No wind, no insects, no animals, just us. And then, not even that. Because slowly, without any of us noticing exactly when it started, we stopped talking. It wasn't a decision, it just happened, like something in the woods preferred silence. Jess was the first to break it. Do you guys hear that? We froze. At first I didn't hear anything, then a voice, faint, far off. Help! It was barely there, like it was being carried from miles away. Evan frowned. That's someone, right? Please. It sounded human, weak, desperate. Jess looked at Tyler. We have to go check. Tyler hesitated, just for a second. That should have been our warning. Yeah, he said finally. Yeah, okay, it's probably just someone lost. The voice came again, a little clearer this time. Over here. It sounded closer, so close. We followed it. Of course we did. The deeper we went, the stranger the voice became. At first, it sounded like a man. Then, not. The words were right, but something about the tone felt off, like someone repeating sounds they didn't fully understand. Help me. It echoed slightly, even though the forest should have swallowed sound. Do you hear that? Jess whispered. Yeah, I said. It's weird. Mark frowned. It's like it's coming from everywhere. He was right. No matter which direction we turned, the voice didn't get louder or quieter. It just stayed there. Please, over here. Tyler stopped walking. Wait. We all stopped. What? Evan asked. Tyler shook his head slowly. We've been walking toward it for like 10 minutes. It should be right in front of us by now. A cold feeling slid down my spine. The voice came again, closer than ever, right behind me. Help! I spun around so fast I nearly fell. There was nothing there, just trees. Okay, I said, my voice shaking despite my best effort. That's not... Something moved between the trees. It was tall. I caught a glimpse of it, just for a second, a shape thin and stretched. Its limbs were wrong. It was so thin and skinny, disappearing behind a tree trunk that didn't seem big enough to conceal it. Then, it was completely gone. Did you see that? I whispered. No one answered, because they had. I could see it on their faces. Don't leave me. The voice again, but now it sounded like Jess. We all turned to her, her face drained of color. That wasn't me. Guys, please. It was her voice, perfect, crying, coming from deeper in the woods. Jess shook her head violently. No. That's not... I'm scared. Mark stepped back. Okay, nope, I'm done. We're leaving. Yeah, Evan said immediately. Yeah, we're going. We turned around, and that's when we realized the path was gone. Not just hard to see, completely gone. There was no clearing, no sign of where we'd come from. Just more trees, packed tight in every direction. That's not possible, Tyler said, his voice cracking. We came straight... Tyler. We froze. That voice. It sounded like his mom. Tyler's face went white. Where are you? He shook his head, backing away. No, that's not real. That's not real. The thing moved again, closer this time. We all saw it. It stepped out from behind a tree, unfolding itself like it had been crammed into too small a space. It was tall, at least 8 feet, and impossibly thin, its skin pale and stretched tight over something that didn't look like bones so much as angles. Its arms hung too long, fingers dragging along the ground, and its face kept changing. Not like it was shifting smoothly, more like it couldn't decide what it was supposed to look like. For a split second, it looked like Jess, then Tyler, then someone I didn't recognize, then nothing at all, just a blank smooth surface. Found you. It spoke in all our voices at once. We ran. I don't remember how long we ran. The forest didn't make sense anymore. No matter which way we went, it felt like we were going deeper instead of out. The thing followed. We could hear it moving, branches snapping, something dragging along the ground, that awful voice calling after us in pieces of people we knew. Wait, don't go, come back. Jess tripped. I heard her scream as she hit the ground. Jess! I skidded to a stop, turning back. Tyler grabbed my arm. Don't! But I already had. I ran to her, helping her up. Go! She gasped. Go! Something wrapped around her ankle. Long, pale, too thin. It yanked her backward so hard she slammed into the dirt, her scream cutting off as she was dragged into the darkness between the trees. Jess! I tried to follow. Tyler tackled me to the ground. You can't! He shouted. You can't! Her screams echoed for a few seconds longer, then stopped, completely, like a switch had been flipped. We didn't say anything. We just ran again. Mark was next. We heard his voice behind us. Guys, wait! We turned. He was standing a few yards back, breathing hard. When did you get back there? Evan asked. What? Mark frowned. I've been right behind you. No, Tyler said slowly. You were in front of me. Mark shook his head. No, I wasn't. His expression changed. Confusion melting into something else. Something different. Oh, he said softly. And then he smiled. Too wide. His jaw stretched farther than it should have. His eyes didn't blink. Almost. The voice wasn't his anymore. Tyler didn't hesitate. He grabbed me and Evan and pulled us back as the thing wearing Mark's shape lunged forward, its body splitting open in ways I can't describe, limbs unfolding and multiplying as it came at us. We ran again. We didn't look back. I don't know how we got out. At some point, the trees just stopped. We burst out of the forest and into the open field at its edge, collapsing in the grass, gasping for air like we'd been underwater. It was morning. We'd gone in at night. Tyler was gone. I don't know when it happened. One second, he was there. The next, he wasn't. It was just me and Evan. We didn't go back. We told the police, of course. They searched the woods. They always do, but they never find anything. No bodies, no signs, nothing. Just trees. Evan won't talk about it anymore. Says we're lucky to be alive. Says we should forget. I tried. I really did. But I can't. Because sometimes, late at night, I hear it. Outside my window. Soft. Familiar. Hey. It sounds like Tyler. Let me in. And the worst part, it doesn't stop. It doesn't go away. It just keeps talking, learning, getting better. Last night, it sounded exactly like me.